We continue this week of Locked On NHL in Utah. Spicy Tuna is back for another few seasons. We're going to talk about Liam O'Brien and what his return to the team means for the Utah Hockey Club.
You are Locked On NHL in Utah, your daily podcast on all things hockey in Utah, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On NHL in Utah, your number one daily podcast on all things hockey in Utah and the Utah Hockey Club. I am your host, Robyn Leonio, alongside Tom Callahan. We want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We are free and available everywhere you get your shows. We got a great show on today's episode, Tom, because we're going to be talking about Liam O'Brien, also known as Spicy Tuna. He just signed a 3-year extension at the Utah Hockey Club to stay at the team. And I think that's the first domino. We're waiting to see. We had some contracts that like lower level, entry level, minor league contracts that were done earlier in the last week or two. But we got our first official actual re-sign of a roster player coming in to the next season. And I'm pretty excited for this one.
You know what? At number one, when I saw it, my first reaction, and you'll see it over on Twitter, is, hey, where have all the good nicknames gone? Oh, there's one. I love it. I love Spicy Tuna. The fact that he's back in the fold is good because his game is spicy. He goes out there. He's a physical guy. It's someone the fan base loves, really just glommed onto, and I think appreciates what he brings to the team. And I think the guys around him in the room appreciate what he brings. He's not afraid to scrap. He'll stand up for his teammates. I think you cannot have enough of those character type of guys on your team, especially when, they can hold their own on the ice, which in today's game you have to. The pure fighter is gone. Mm-hmm. That's not a thing in the league anymore. But if you have some skill, you can skate, you can maybe serve on a checking line or maybe even third line production, but you're also tough, you're scrappy. You can drop the mitts. I think there's a place for you in today's game. And I think that having Spicy Tuna back is fantastic.
It's really funny. I kind of want to go back to that name really quick. When the team first got introduced to the Utah fans, when they had that little welcome party over at the Delta Center and they had all that, Liam O'Brien just goes out and just, tries, he's like screaming at the top of his lungs, like saying, like Utah, welcome. It's like, I am Liam O'Brien. It's like, but you can call me Spicy Tuna.
Love it. Yeah, you need that. You have to have that in your room, and that's tremendous. So guess what, Robyn? Remember how I was trying to predict a jersey sales leader earlier? No, Liam O'Brien. He's going to be the jersey sales leader. Now that he's back, I feel safe in saying there are going to be a lot of Liam O'Brien jerseys.
Oh, people will love him. I mean, he was loved in Arizona for the reasons that you were just talking about, right? The fact that he's scrappy, he's willing to, still like a little bit of mix of old style enforcer hockey, but still like bringing the skill level very good. And he's does what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing, too, we talk about it's okay production, 14 points, not bad, 153 PIMs, which is kind of high in today's game, but also 229 hits. So that was 14th most in the league. And led the franchise with that last year. So that's awesome to see. Man, I just think that you love having that kind of guy. He gets up, he brings energy, he brings excitement. It's a lot of fun. And when you're building a team, foundational players, yes, a Connor McDavid is a foundational player. Don't get me wrong. Cale Makar is a foundational player. But so is a guy like Liam O'Brien. That's someone who you can't understate the contribution. And so I think really looking at it from that perspective, it's a great re-sign for this team and a guy who, is comfortable as a fit. Obviously, Bill Armstrong likes him and is very excited to have him back in the fold as well.
Now let's remember, Tom, it's re-sign hyphen, not resign.
Right. Re-sign. Correct.
There is a difference, everybody. One is you bring them back. The other one is they leave. Very different.
For good. Done. I'm out.
But no, you're right. And having a guy like him is a very, very foundation in the sense that kind of things that we've gone already and mentioned. Having a guy who's willing to get physical, willing to make the hits, it's there. It's literally there to protect your guys. Your skill, your high level skill guys from getting targeted by their guys.
Right.
You're literally that's kind of what it is. To bring that love to maintain and focus the physicality on him rather than on the others.
And you're saying, why do hits matter in the game? Because, and I'm a big fan of physical hockey, but also puck battles matter and puck possession matters more than it ever has in the game. The NHL clinical definition of a hit is when it separates the man from the puck. So 229 times during the season, Liam O'Brien made contact with an opposing player that separated that player from the puck. That is what a hit is. So that's the important thing here. That causes turnovers, opportunities. You need those guys in your lineup. And then that's when you get your cycles in the offensive zone. That's when you have your aggressive forecheck and you get forced turnovers, and all kinds of good things come from that. So that's why it's fantastic to have that back in the lineup.
Yeah, it certainly is. And that's kind of, again, the reason why I was hoping to see him get re-signed. I mean, we kind of already knew he was going to be. And again, based off what you just saw with, what I mentioned earlier, when he introduced himself to the Utah fans, he wanted to be back. He wanted to be. You can tell based off just that moment, he wanted to be there to play for Utah.
Made a bit of a splash, you might say.
Which is certainly a good sign. And again, it just took some time. Maybe it was, that time, we're talking like a nearly 2-month period at this point between those dates where we didn't hear much. There's a lot of things that go in place. One, maybe Liam O'Brien just wanted to take a little bit of vacation. He's like, I'm going to take a rest a little bit. I got nothing to worry about. And then maybe about a month later, it's like, all right, let's start talking with my agent. We can figure out what's going to work for the best of us in terms of term and in terms of year. And you know what, Tom, we're going to talk about maybe a little bit more of the details that's going to break down that, as well as maybe discuss other targets of who Utah should re-sign. There are still a couple of free agents left to re-sign. We'll see who they can get, and we'll do that right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. GameTime makes it easier getting tickets, even faster as well. Prices on the GameTime app go down, usually the closer it gets to the event. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and the lowest price guarantee, GameTime that kicks the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can go through multiple different kinds of events, not just sporting events, though MLB events, NBA events. Maybe you're a Utah Jazz fan. You're already taking a look at what's going on into the next season. Maybe you are a University of Utah fan. You want to take a look at tickets for those Utes football games. Whatever it is, GameTime is the place to take and find those tickets. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for all kinds of events that are here. So not even just sports, concerts, comedy events, and you name it, with the lowest price guarantee, event cancel protection, job loss protection, and more. My favorite feature, all-in pricing. Toggle this feature, shows the total up front, with no surprise fees at checkout. So you'll see the total price without even having to hit checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Let's get to some of the details now, Tom, of this re-sign for Liam O'Brien. Let's kind of get right into it. This is a contract extension with a term of 3 years and an average annual value of $1 million per year. So very team friendly, very, again, what we'd probably expect for a checking line forward, as you've kind of meant, you referred it to it as in the way that he's played. Does not surprise me in any way that's kind of what we were looking at to start off with. But also, I mean, we'll talk about it in a little bit. It's going to allow Utah to spend a little bit of extra money for some, maybe to make some splashes down the road.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it is a team-friendly total. It's a good total. $1 million AAV is what we're hearing on this, and that's great. Especially for that kind of player who fills that role and does so enthusiastically. I like it. It's a good signing. And you know what? There's a certain comfort level in the player you already know. So I think that there are times when teams might say, well, we know this guy, but we kind of want something new. We try to make a splash. Then you bring a guy in, you try to import him to the culture. It doesn't work. The Kings just went through this. So with PLD, and they brought him in, gave him a big contract, did not work. They ended up shipping him out here, which actually I was kind of surprised they were able to trade him. But so some general managers have a higher comfort level with that. Others are more prone to say, you know what, I know who I know, and I like who I know, or even if you can live with whatever warts, flaws, whatever guys bring, that's part of it too. And so that's why when you look at what's out there right now to re-sign UFA, RFA, we talked about the RFAs, especially on defense just the other day. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of loose ends out there for this Utah Hockey Club to tie up. Really, the two defensemen that are out there, and it's only 5 guys in total, and all of them are up, but Travis Dermott and Josh Brown, those are your other defensemen who are out there right now. So, I mean, you're looking from a standpoint of, what are you going to do with these guys? Do you bring them back? Do you not bring them back? And how much value proposition is in there? Because let's face it, there are going to be a lot of defensemen out there, albeit a little older, come July 1.
You're absolutely right. And I think that's kind of the thing. Honestly, like, it's not that I don't have anything against, like someone like Josh Brown and Travis Dermott. Honestly, I think they might be even a little bit lower on the totem pole in terms of priority. They're not going to worry about that for now. Maybe they'll start at least discussing and say maybe just to keep the dialogue open, even past July 1st when they're officially unrestricted free agent. Of course, they're not going to get those extra years. I mean, I don't expect them to get 8 years anyways, or 7-8 years anyways. They're going to be lower to mid-level contracts, but you're right. There isn't much, loose ends. I mean, there is, according, this you still have Travis Boyd on the injured reserve. I don't know if they want to bring him back or whatever. It's all possible. Just like, hey, if you're healthy, maybe we can get you back. Boyd was a pretty important piece to, I think, the middle six the last couple of years for Arizona. I would like to see him back. And again, that's depending on, what it shows on his health. Again, he was ended the season on the injured reserve, so don't know what's going to look like past that.
Right. And that's why, too, and at forward, the only guy hanging out there is Barrett Hayton, young, 24. I think he barely got over 30 games last year. Not a lot of production. He's about a 0.4 points per game average guy. And that's the only forward that they have that's kind of out there right now. So, what do you do with these players? There's a big question of, and it comes back to value. It's not always just dollars and cents, but it is, okay, if I've got $4 million, who is the best value for my $4 million? And where does that money need to be spent? On the blue line, in net, up front? Is it a specialist, a power play specialist, a penalty killing specialist? So those are the things you have to take into account, or the needs of the team overall. If that money is better spent in the free agent market, that's where you're going to spend it. If it's better spent bringing those guys back into the fold, that's where you're going to spend it. That's why NHL GMs get paid so much money. They have to figure that out.
Yep. And we talked about a little bit that, just the other day, right? Taking a look at, pending UFA defense. I think we had a huge focus on defensemen. Who are some defensemen that Utah can target, kind of take away from other teams and, get them to nice, pretty healthy contracts that they probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise elsewhere. Some of our fans of this show, some of our everydayers were interacting with us about that. And we were talking about some possible players. I even joked, I put even a question mark with an or on there. I said, Brady Shea or Brandon Montour. And then someone's like, why not both? Do they have the money for it? I mean, sure, why not? But it just gives you an idea that they have enough money to be able to spend. If they can get other defensemen like that, you can certainly do that. In the case with with Barrett Hayton, that's a whole nother thing. Again, he's a forward. They're at 10 forwards signed right now, so they're almost there. They almost got what they need. So they just need to fine tune that side.
Here's the thing to keep in mind too down the road is just because you have the money right now. Yeah. But if you give a guy a 6-7 year deal in free agency and he comes in, that money is now tied up for that. So you still need to be looking long-term value because don't forget 100%. You have goaltenders coming up on UFA status in 25-26 and then 26-27. Next year you have 1, 2, 3, and by next year I mean 25-26. You have 3 forwards going UFA: Kerfoot, Bukestad, and Carcone, and then you've got RFA for Jack McBain. And again, depending on what you do defensively here, right now you get to rebuild your entire defense, which is good and bad at the same time because continuity counts for something. So coming out of training camp, the defense, I expect them to struggle. I expect the goalies to struggle because the defense is going to struggle until they find their chemistry.
Yeah, it's certainly going to look like that. I mean, take a look at, let's say, the Coyotes team from just a couple years ago, right? They just kind of threw together a bunch of lower level contracts, people that kind of didn't really matter, and they just threw together whatever they could at that point, with the addition of what the core was and at least left over from it, and Clayton Keller, Jacob Chikrin still there, and whatever it was, and it was a mess. Remember, I think they started the season, was it that 2022 season, like 13 straight losses or whatever it was. It was bad.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing to overcome as well. Like when you stumble that hard out of the gate and you take away essentially an eighth of your season, that's real hard to recover from. So, I mean, at least if you can kind of tread water for the first little bit, if you can get through that first stretch 500, maybe a little better, and then your defense rounds into shape, you're good. And then your team comes together. Okay, that's even better. But that's going to be a really, really critical patch. And that's where veterans can help. And that's where your glue guys help get you through those games to get you on the other side of that learning curve. And that's, to me, that's the biggest challenge facing not only the front office, but the coaching staff. When you do have all the pieces assembled, whatever those pieces are, you've got to take them and form them together pretty darn quickly. And that'll be my greatest challenge heading into that first preseason game on September 22nd against St. Louis. And then moving forward, I'm watching the defense. I want to see who's there. I want to see the way they're getting implemented in the system, how the partner combos are going to juggle. You'll see one guy play with one guy another night, and then it'll switch the following game. So there's going to be a lot of figuring it out in those 6 preseason games. And I think that's going to be pretty critical right off the hop.
It certainly is. We're going to continue talking about all this, and we're going to get to maybe some final thoughts about this. Plus, I want to introduce to you guys a new insider program that we got going on. We'll talk about that right after this. All right, I want to wrap up one more thing when it comes to the whole free agent talk, Tom. And it was an interesting thing that someone brought up. I kind of laughed at it because I actually had to look it up really quick about another free agent thing as a continuation of what we just talked about just the other day. And when I asked the question, should they go after a guy like Jake Gensel, right? And somehow, I guess someone helped me go down the rabbit hole and looked up Jake Gensel's dad, Mike Gensel, for one season only, played for what was then known as the Salt Lake Golden Eagles.
Ah, yeah. So there's a connection. I like it. Did Mike like his time with the Golden Eagles? Wow, that's going back a ways, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, that is. I'd actually have to, I had to go a little further down that rabbit hole to take a look at what, how much he enjoyed his time. He didn't have a huge amount of time. I think he's coaching somewhere in Minnesota now.
Okay.
But I mean, hey, that'd be a really interesting, a little interesting tidbit you can share if that would be something that would happen.
Oh, absolutely. I think that'd be cool to kind of show the tie in there. And I'm guessing, I don't off the top of my head. Well, I mean, you just brought it to me now, so I have no idea what year of his career he played in Salt Lake. So I don't know if Jake was even a glimmer in his eye yet. But, that would be pretty interesting. Some people feel drawn to that, a part of the country where perhaps their family was before them. And so that would be pretty interesting to see if you know what? I mean, anything can happen.
Alrighty.
Uh-oh, here we go. What do you got?
So Mike Gensel was a Salt Lake Golden Eagle from 85 to 86. And interesting, his bio, I mean, his Wikipedia, I don't know how much, but his bio does say currently works as a pro scout for the Arizona Coyotes, which again probably should be updated. But I'm like, there isn't more. This keeps turning a little bit.
I think I'm not saying you're reaching, because I mean, even without the connection, there's a possibility, but that's interesting. So yeah, the old International Hockey League, which by the way, back in the day really was a close rival to the NHL. It was like, so we talk about quadruple A players. That was a quadruple A league. It was better than the American Hockey League. It wanted to compete with the NHL. And in some ways it did. Some teams did. The Chicago Wolves, the Detroit Vipers that spent a lot of money. Vegas had a team. Long Beach had a team. Nikolai Hobby-Bulin famously hit out with the Long Beach Ice Dogs while he was holding out. Coyotes fans will remember that. So Salt Lake had a team, the Golden Eagles. So it's interesting. I'm looking at it. He did play 4 games for the New Haven Nighthawks, and he played 6. Now I'm going down the rabbit hole with you. 6 for the Salt Lake Golden Eagles. So he only actually played 10 games of pro. Had a pretty respectable University of Minnesota college career. So that is interesting. But so he did in the IHL play 6 games professionally. That is where he ended his career in the 85-86 season. So interesting.
I mean, hey, that's an interesting, again, just a little tidbit. Again, you could only grasp so much from it, but I mean, it'd be just a fun thing to share if that's if they end up going after Jake Gensel in free agency. It'd be something fun, just a little fun thing to share. That's it. That's all it is.
The other thing too is it's interesting for people who may not understand the history of hockey in Salt Lake. Goes way back. I mean, this has been a hockey city for a long time. And I told you how much I hate the phrase non-traditional market, expansion market, any of that. I think there are a lot of places people would be shocked to realize how long pro hockey existed in Oklahoma City, going all the way back to 1936. People don't understand from outside of markets that these places may have had and loved the sport for a long time before these keyboard warriors even showed up. So, I mean, to understand the depth of the knowledge, I mean, there will be fans going to these Utah hockey games that have been hockey fans for 40 or 50 years. And that is a strong base to build on. So, it's pretty cool. And I'll be interested to see how well they're able to link to the past.
It certainly will be interesting. Maybe come up with some kind of Salt Lake retro night or something like that. If they do a little throwback to the Salt Lake Eagles, that Golden Eagles, that'd be
Salt Lake
cool.
Golden Eagles, the Utah Grizzlies. I mean, there's a lot of hockey history.
So much. There is a lot of hockey history. One thing I want to share before we kind of get onto some final thoughts, Tom, just want to make sure everyone does know, we just launched a new Locked On Utah Hockey Insider program. If you guys have ever wanted to just interact with, the hosts, so that's us, or if you wanted to get information about what's going on in the Utah Hockey Club before we even talk about it on mic, this is the opportunity for you guys to join in on this program. You guys text into us, and we will text back with you guys. It's actually a one-on-one. We can have some one-on-one conversations with you guys, get all the updates you want, all in one place. Again, all through text messages. I got a chance to do a little trial run about it, take a look at it. It's a really cool program, Tom, and I feel like fans are going to really have a unique opportunity here with the draft coming up, with free agency coming up, and a very busy offseason coming up. No better way to get some insider info than to text into the show.
I'm just looking forward to hearing all of the messages of undying love and affection for the show, for us. You can always throw us a compliment in there. But no, seriously, it is a cool way to interact. And a lot of times you may have a question. You may just kind of be rolling around, you hear something on the radio, see something on TV, read something on your phone. You're like, who could I ask this hockey question to? How about Robyn and Tom? Cool. Send us a text.
Absolutely, send us a text. And if you want to get in on this, it's very simple. All you got to do is send a text, just any kind of text, any kind of wording, right, to start off with, to this number right here if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, I'll go ahead and say it out loud. The number is 801-760-9033. That's 801-760-9033. You send us a text, and then we will give you the information to how to sign up. You can, and even so, I'm going to offer this to you guys right now. If you use the promo code SUMMER50, I'll give you guys 2 free months because we are in the summer. Maybe get to a bit of a slower news cycle at some point in late July. So I'm going to be giving you guys the option 50% off your first 2 months. So you guys get some in additional. Your first 14 days already are free. $4.99 after that. So if you get 50% off, you get that's a decent deal for you guys.
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, we're going to be not only reacting to things on there and giving you news and notes, but, it's going to be interesting now as we really start to get the ball rolling towards the NHL season. You kind of don't realize it. You get through free agency and everything seems to slow down for a little bit there. And then all of a sudden the snowball's rolling downhill again, and boom, next thing you know, you're in training camp. So if you want to be up to speed and up to date on everything that has happened in gathering that snowball that is now in training camp mode, that'll be a great way to do it.
It certainly will be. Once again, all you got to do is, I'll bring it up one more time. Just send a text to 801-760-9033. Or you can also just click the link in the description that we'll have on YouTube, and we'll be able to get you signed up as soon as possible. And we'll get you, and you'll get a welcome text and any info that we get. Again, if you sign up before the draft, we'll get any info as things happen during the NHL draft. So,
and I think, Robyn, it's important to tell people this is exclusive content. This is not going to be on the show. This is not going to be on the podcast. This is something separate, and it also gives you that direct line, that access to us for your questions and our insights. But yeah, this is going to be something that when you sign up for this, there's value to this because it is exclusive content that we'll be putting out.
But I will say this, as much as it is exclusive content, if you guys are a subscriber, maybe we'll give you guys a little bit of preview. Maybe there's some that aren't in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We'll give you guys a little bit of a preview. So, let's say we have a really good conversation one-on-one with one of you fans about the re-signing of Liam O'Brien. And we'll say, I was talking with, I don't know, I'll just use Tom as an example. I was just talking with Tom through text, and, and he was saying how much he really liked the re-signing, and he actually got a chance to talk to Liam O'Brien in person, really likes how, this kind of information, that kind of one-on-one, and that kind of, being able to share that with some people, maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Again, might not be for everybody, but we highly recommend it. It's a great way to interact with us and get, as Tom said, some really exclusive content from the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's fun. We enjoy doing it. We love hearing from people. It's a good time, but also, hey, like I say, it is that exclusive line. It's the next best thing to have in our phone number, I guess.
Exactly. One more time, number 801-760-9033. Any final thoughts, Tom, about free agency, about Liam O'Brien before we close things off on this episode?
Well, I am really looking forward to seeing once we get through. Obviously, the draft is important and is occupying the top spot on the bill. But as you mentioned, some guys take vacations after the season. There is still, contract negotiations and everything going on. Don't be surprised if you see some players' rights traded at the draft to give other teams an exclusive window for a couple of days to negotiate with a guy before they go free agent. So you might see a 7th round pick thrown out as compensation for that. Those are the things to keep an eye on. So as you're building your team, I'd say Utah is interested in Montour, and Florida decides they can't afford him. You may see Utah flip a 7th over to Florida just to get that exclusive negotiating window for the 5 days or whatever it is until July 1. So if that happens, just know that that's the big reason why it does happen. And I think I'm really interested to see the strategy as it plays out.
It certainly will be, and because it's all really close. At this point, we are now just 1 day away from, when everyone's listening to this, 1 day away from the NHL draft and 3 days away from the beginning of the free agency period. So it is nonstop content back to back to back. No better place to hear all of us nonstop content than right here on Locked On NHL in Utah.
Looking forward to bringing you all the information, all the fun, even the inside jokes. And you know what? Like I say, we have a blast doing it, and we just love talking hockey with you guys. So thank you so much for being a part of everything, and we look forward to bringing you even more here down the stretch.
Absolutely. That's it for today's episode of Locked On NHL in Utah. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We are available everywhere you get your shows, including on YouTube. Hit the notification bell, and you'll be able to get notified anytime a new episode drops. We're all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Don't forget also to interact with us on social media. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnNHL in Utah, and on X at LO_NHL Utah. Don't forget to interact with us on myself as well. I am at Robyn_Leonio. Tom Callahan is at Callahan on Air. Interact with us, ask a question. We might answer right back or on a future episode of the Locked On NHL in Utah podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode, and we'll see you guys next time.